Hi, I'm Michelle, and I like to dye fabric. I like to dye fabric.
Hi, I'm Teri, and I love thread. Shocking, I know.
I'm Lori, and I finished 2 quilts today. So we're in 2025, and I've got 2 quilts done.
Ooh.
I'm Debbie Brown, and I haven't bought any fabric this year.
Yeah.
And I'm Tracy Mooney, and I just got a new sewing machine.
Yay.
And this is Quilters Rule the World.
I love Quilters Rule the World. We got a really lovely comment on my conversation with Lori about her quilted jacket, and we actually posted it on social media today. And I was just so honored that somebody would want to see your coat. And actually, there's another comment on there that at some point we will bring up on that particular episode that we will bring up too. But it go over to our social media at Quilters of the World, and you can see Lori's breast cancer jacket, which has some really absolutely amazing details with names and different people who were involved in her care, both her mental health care and then also her physical care. So
And there's one fairly big patch with all the negative things. And I didn't include the picture, but there's one little patch with good things.
woohoo!
Nice.
Yeah, I'm sure the puking was really fun.
I didn't have chemo, so I
Oh,
didn't puke and I didn't lose my hair.
yay!
See, there's two positives right there.
Yeah.
Right, right. So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and all that jazz. Did you guys have a good holiday?
I got to see my kids. We had all the kids here,
Hmm.
adult kids, I should say,
We
all under
had
one roof. It was fabulous.
we had 4 of our 5 children, three, 4 of our grandchildren, and 2 of our great-grandchildren.
Wow.
Oh.
It was delightful.
I got to see all of my biological weapons, my grandchildren, who gift wrapped this lovely cold for me. So I did not really have any celebration after the week before Christmas. I'm just coming out of it now, but I'll keep them in my life.
Hmm.
They're worth it.
That's good.
I had a quilt show in December, and that was really pretty exciting. So I myself and my partner in my reprintery project um, were given a space to do whatever we wanted, and um, oh, her name's Charlotte Flory, by the way. Because somebody couldn't use the space. It's a membership gallery, and one of the members couldn't use the space. So one of the other members sponsored us, and we put up a show in 5 weeks for December, and it felt really special and made my entire holiday sparkle.
Yay!
Nice.
I wish I could do a sparkly thing over you right now.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Mm. Mm. Um, Question number 2 for tonight. Are you doing word of the year this year? How was your word for last year? Like any thoughts on that? Um, and all that jazz. Michelle, I think we'll start with you.
I had such a visceral response to my word last year, which was retreat. And I really thought a lot about it, and I enjoyed having a word that it was a random word generator that I used, and the word retreat came up. And when I first got that word, I was struggling with it because I felt like it was like a backwards feeling word, but um, it ended up being what I took from that word last year, as I was reflecting on it, was that it really meant like retreat from the fight and allow things to happen. And I know that that feels pretty abstract, but a lot of times I think I want to like stand up for what's right or like fight for an idea, and remembering my word throughout the year when I felt that struggle was really interesting to have as an anchor. And so this year I did the same random generator and got a word that immediately felt good, which made me suspicious. And I actually, I was having a conversation with another friend. We are talking about this, and I'm like, I'm gonna let my word kind of come to me. And I kept seeing the word reach. I kept, so I've decided that
Oh, we just
this
lost.
year, reach.
Can you repeat that? Because your screen went funny for a minute.
I'm back. Darn. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was worried about with this room. Sorry. The word I picked for this year is reach.
Oh, I
Did
like
it go out again?
that. I like
Okay.
that.
So what are you
I
taking from
kept
that?
kind of a reach. So I wrote the word reach as a caption for a picture that I had at my quilt show where I was reaching on the top row of a community quilt that we were building. And as I was writing, I was thinking like I couldn't do that last year. I couldn't reach that high.
Mhm.
And so that word just kept coming up. And it felt really good to think about reach as like reaching out, reaching a goal, uh, reaching a new, um, I don't know, place, maybe like going somewhere, reaching. So I don't know. I don't know what that word has in store for me this year, but I'm excited about it. And my random word was mindful, which I like also.
Hmm. I like that. Debbie?
Looking back at my word of the year for the last couple years, I've only figured them out what they were at the end of the year.
Oh,
So
interesting.
2023 was a year of illness for myself and for most of the members of my family, very serious illness. So 2024, looking back, was a year of recovery. So my word of this year is onward. So this is just a cold. I'm not unwell. But even though I have a cold, onward. And if I got two words for the year, they would be ever onward. Just keep going
Hmm. I like that.
and
Lori?
seeing where that goes.
So first of all, I don't even remember my word from last year. I failed at that. Okay. This year, as I was thinking about the word, I thought I want something that has to do with contentment. Um, this whole being in my 70s is being a little dicey. Um, I've always been able to do everything I wanted when I wanted to do it, and I'm finding there are some limitations. So contentment was the word that I thought I wanted, and then I did a random word generator. And the word I got was brave.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, I think maybe that's better. It's like a mindset
Yeah.
to go and deal with the all the stuff. Brave.
Yeah.
I like that a lot for you. I really do. I think there's something really beautiful about it.
Yeah, me too.
Tracy?
I got nothing.
What?
I never picked a word. I
Huh?
think we had this conversation last year.
This does not compute.
I know. I know. Terry started bugging me on like New Year's Eve about what my word was going to be.
You're
And
lucky
I
I
was
didn't
like,
start
it's
earlier.
embroidery. I bought a new sewing machine. Like,
Well, can we
I
look
got
one up
nothing.
for you?
What'd you say?
We can do a random word generator for
I
you
mean, go
now.
right ahead. Let's do it.
Go ahead, Debbie.
You talk, I'll work on it.
Okay. I have a pen to write it down.
Okay. So I'll talk about mine. So last year I ended up having two words. One is rua, which means breath or breathe. And there are certain connotations to that were just like I really actually felt last year like I was breathing, which was a really beautiful thing. Then my other word was dynamic, and oddly enough, I found that at it came up in a Facebook memory. I made a list of my words that I've had over the years, and I went, "Oh yeah, this year was really dynamic." And I started like putting together like little memories and thoughts about how 2024 ended up being dynamic. It took me in some directions I wasn't entirely sure that I was intended to go in, and so that was really good. And then my word for 2025 is surrender. And it's not give up, it's give over to. It's kind of like Michelle's retreat. Like when Michelle got retreat last year, I was incredibly excited because there's this whole idea of like going on retreat and coming away from it being refreshed and renewed. And so my 2025 word is surrender. So what'd you find, Debbie?
Well, I was on Jen Ruweiler's Word of the Year generator, and it was hard not to laugh out loud. I don't know if you can see it. It says,
Pass.
Okay.
That's
Write
ironic.
it down. That's my
"Yep,
word.
that's your word, path," which I believe the definition of path is, I got nothing. And I appreciate what you said.
Or pass me a drink, please.
Ah, there you go.
true. That's true. I'm also thinking like that I tend to say yes to things, and when maybe I should pass.
Yes.
I saw an interesting social media post someone did where friends gave each other a punch card for every time they said no to something, and then they would take them out at the end when they filled their punch card.
I like it.
I
That's
love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe
we should make
quilters rule the
Tracy
word
punch-
meets that.
Yes.
Down
A little
We
the,
might
punch
need
card.
a pass punch card.
Yeah.
Mm,
I love it.
like it so much. So, right before we got on, Tracy, you brought us a little something that I think is much more exciting, and we'll table the other
Okay.
conversation
Yeah.
for now.
All
If
right.
you're
I
okay with
think that
that.
works. Okay, so I think I'll leave the person who sent this note anonymous.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
um, but the person used to listen to the Quilts and Tell podcast that Lori and I were on, and she actually had written in a letter at one point that we discussed on the show. So every once in a while, she'll send me a little note when something's happening, and today is one of those days. So she wrote, Tracy, would love to get your 2 cents in on the anger in the quilting industry. A month ago, people were screaming about how unfair QuiltCon is, how some got 4 quilts in the show, and why not give a chance to everyone else. Calls for boycott. Now, Ruby Star makers anger over repeat makers like myself, them comparing it to being in high school and not being picked, and then calling for boycotts of the fabric lines. I mean, what is happening here? What do you think is happening? And so I wanted to open up that question. If you want, I can sort of start with like what my response was, which my response was that it was jealousy, to be perfectly honest. Um, and and that you really kind of once you get sort of in the public eye in the industry, you just need to sort of stick to your guns and like just keep doing what you're doing and not listen to the haters, you know? In this case, I do think it's haters, like because I don't know a single show where they limit how many times a person can get a quilt into the show. You can enter as many times as you want, right? You can have all of your quilts juried in or none of your quilts juried in. And that's just what a quilt show is. And so on that side of it, I don't, that was my thought on that. And on the part of the Ruby Star makers or any other group where it's a group of makers, the company themselves decide whether or not they're going to allow for repeat people. And in the groups that I've seen, there are some people who really step up to the game and, perform really well. And then there's some people who maybe have things get in the way and maybe they don't do as much, or maybe they're overwhelmed by what the challenges are in being in one of those groups. This particular person deserves to be in this group. Like she goes above and beyond. Every single week, I'm seeing her post some new project. And I think that makes you deserve to be in a group where it's promoting someone's fabric. So those were my thoughts. I told her to, that unfortunately, she's like, this just seems like Mean Girls. And I was like, unfortunately, I think there are people like that in this industry, just like there are everywhere. And, she said that some people were calling the, all the Ruby Star women, I'm not going to call them girls, but Rashida and all those girls, Melody and all them mean girls. And I was like, know them all, not mean girls. So
Well, and actually, how much control do the line designers have over who's picked, who's chosen to
I
do
mean, I think
this?
in that case, I think that they pick.
Do
You
you?
know, I think they do have say. I'm not exactly sure, but I do think that they sort of pick. But
I have two things to say. One is I want to say to this person that I think we're all celebrating you right now and your accomplishments. And please celebrate your accomplishments. That is amazing that you were selected to do that. It's very competitive, and whatever you did stood out among the competition, and that's wonderful. And congratulations. And keep going. Don't downplay those achievements at all. There's noise and chatter, and I saw a lot of people who had quilts accepted into QuiltCon downplaying their acceptance and saying like, I just want to say everyone that, didn't get a quilt accepted, keep going, like felt this need to address that.
apologize.
I really feel like it is hard to put yourself out there. It is hard to get a rejection. I'm going to say it's hard to get an acceptance too. And celebrate that and celebrate how that what that means to you as an accomplishment. And so I just really wanted to say that. And then the other thing I want to say about the maker programs, I ran one for the last 3 years at my company, and it is agonizing selecting people. It really is. And I personally went through, I'm sure Ruby Star has like way more than what we had. But I went through every year we had between 250 and 500 applications, depending
My
on the
word.
year. I looked at everybody's, I read everything. I mean, it took days, days. And I did this for a nonprofit as well, a little different situation. And one thing that I always took into consideration, because I did a point system, was if you had applied before. And so that was an automatic like point, because it may not be right that year. You may be choosing between two people that are very similar, and that one person doesn't get picked. But then if that person applies again next year, like keep going. Like it's find the ones that feel right for you, get involved, reach those goals, reach out, find other ways to get involved, learn who the makers are, follow them, connect with them, just keep reaching. That's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming.
It's good.
Now, I want to speak not to the people who got their quilts into the show and not to the people who are the makers. I want to talk to the people who didn't get picked. Pass. Um, we live in a really great time. We're very able to be connected. We're very able to promote ourselves. We're very able to get work out there and to be seen. And whereas it is a great step up, and it is a great help to have someone recognize your work and distribute it to their people as well, you don't have to wait to be picked. You can do your thing. So keep doing your thing, whether or not it's ever going to be the right time for you to be picked by this one organization to be in their show or to be one of their makers. Do what you do without doing it for them. Do what you do. It just didn't align this time. Do what you do and keep doing it. Pick yourself. Don't wait for someone to pick you. Pick yourself.
Debbie, you know what? Thank you for saying that, because sometimes the ones who don't get picked take on this identity as though it was personal, like it's directed at them, and it's really not. It's really not. It's not directed at you, it's not for you. It's just this, I don't want to say it's random, but companies have an idea of what they're looking for, and if what you submitted doesn't fit that, that's okay. Like you're saying, either pass, keep going, keep learning who you are as a maker, because I will tell you, like, that shifts. Like, when I started quilting, and I don't know that everybody does this, but I started quilting. I was a hardcore hand quilter, right? And surprise, I'm a machine quilter. So, and I do whole cloth quilts that are sort of random. Like, I I'm a little weirdo, but keep going. I agree with you, Debbie. Just keep going. Keep finding out who you are as a maker. Find out who you are as a quilter, um, and maybe maybe your aesthetic will work better for another company. Maybe your aesthetic will work better for newer quilters. So design your stuff for newer quilters. Maybe your staff will be better for something else. Like who knows? Who knows? But work on like if working in the quilting industry is part of who you would like to be, then just keep trudging forward. Because I think every single one of us in this room would say it's not an easy thing to do. It is totally not an easy thing to do. And when you do, there's still like work. There's still finding out who you are. There's still there's still this desire to be aligned with companies. And sometimes it really works out for people. And then for some of us, it just doesn't. And that's fine too. Lori?
I I just have one little quick thing, and that is um after my breast cancer treatment was all over, I was still a mess mentally. I started seeing a therapist, and one day she asked me what I would do if I could do anything in the world. And I said I would travel and I would teach sewing. And she said, "Do they know you're there?" So, for all of those people that are out there that are working at trying to be in the sewing, quilting world, do they know you're there? Keep trying. Talk to other people. Just because you've applied to one place doesn't mean that someplace else knows you're there.
Yep. And I almost want to go back to what Michelle said about how difficult it is to choose, because you don't know if you were almost chosen You don't.
Yep.
You don't know how close you were, and for some reason, other one was, a different person was chosen or a different quilt was chosen. You have no idea.
Yep.
So
I also like to think of something my sister told me once, and that's if you're not hearing no, then you're not asking. You're not putting it out there. So when you're hearing no, that means you've applied to the shows, you've, reached out, I get emails at work from designers submitting collection ideas. I'm the person that reads those emails. And again, like I know how scary that is and how hard that is. And I try to give them feedback on every single person that, writes in because it is so hard to do that. I'm terrified to enter quilts and shows and because I don't want to be rejected, because I don't want that attached to my work. It's a mental game. And one thing that I thought really for me kind of helped me turn that corner was entering in my state fair or entering in shows that aren't juried, like the Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show, um, because those places are celebrating your work. And the Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show is not a juried show. They don't give ribbons. The state fair does, and that's been also a really good learning experience. But the maker programs also, I want to say, um, come with a lot of opinions. And being on the side of it where I'm running a program, I am scared every year to announce it because I know there are armies of people ready to pounce and be like, don't have people volunteer and stop promising exposure for hard work. And I mean, I believe all of those things. And it's hard to be put in a defensive position where you're like, this is actually a mentorship program. And so, so really look into what that program is going to do for you, what you want to get out of it, what's available. Like maybe it's taking a class, maybe it's a community. One of the things that I've been considering this year is a community that Zach Foster runs. And if you don't know his work, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Zach, I want to be your friend. Um, and I like the idea of that, of community or sewing groups or things that you can have, just this ongoing connection with people. And I mean, that's what you guys are also, right? Kind of a lot, not kind of, you are. It's so hard. It's so hard because the meanness exists. I think we've all talked about it at different points too. I made this little mini quilt. My sister's a knitter and she works at a knit shop in New Hampshire called Scratch. And I I made a little mini quilt that said knitters are nicer, and I spelled nicer with a K because it's funny.
I love that.
Um, and I actually have a reason why. I know I'm talking a lot, but I have solved this mystery if you're interested in hearing. Okay, so here's why knitters are nicer. Quilters, myself, all of you, we take fabric and we use very sharp weapons to slice it and cut it into a million pieces. And then we take other sharp weapons to sew it, to stab it millions of times. Like we are hostile. We are a hostile group. Um, I mean, we have good intentions, of course. Like we want to repair it, but I don't think we can get away with the fact that we destroyed it in the first place. Knitters, on the other hand, have two magic wands, or one, however many they use, or four, or multiple magic wands that they take yarn and they magically make textiles with it.
While muttering curses.
Yes, I mean, they have control of their magic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, knitters are nicer, guys. Find a knitting
That all
friend.
makes perfect sense to me.
It does, right?
Yeah.
I feel so good solving this. I like solving things and stabbing things.
And
I've
cutting them
seriously
up.
I've seriously considered creating a TikTok channel where I go live and I quilt just kind of quietly in the background while true crime podcasts play.
Yes, I would watch that.
Are you gonna call
You
it,
described my life.
are you gonna call it the Sweary Quilter?
I mean, no, I think that one needs a different name.
Hmm, true. Because wouldn't you be swearing?
Well, I don't
It-
know. It depends on how many mistakes I'm making.
Exactly.
Design
Some
choices.
days you swear and some days you don't.
Yeah.
I would have presumed a couple of weeks ago Debbie swore. She showed the back of one of her quilts one day, and I'm like, ooh, been
I'm
there,
a
done.
professional and my tension is never wrong. It is never, and it was New Year's Eve. So the very first thing I got to do on New Year's Day was to redo everything I had done on New Year's Eve because I had to
Oh,
pick out all my
Oh,
quilting.
oh my gosh, I'm so
Practice
sorry.
makes us better.
My condolences.
It's just part of, I accept it as part of the process. Now, the second time when I put it in and the tension was bad again, that's when things might have gone a little squirrely. But in my defense, I wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
And your machine was picking up on the fact that you weren't feeling well.
I was not feeling well.
Bleep.
No, I like to show that to my followers. I do put that out there whenever I have quilted a spare piece of fabric that came up off the ground and onto the back of my quilt into the back of my quilt. Or I flipped the back of the backing over that got quilted into it because machine quilting is what I post.
Yeah.
Any of my machine quilting mishaps, I do post those to show that it does happen. If you say, well, when I get better, it's not going to happen. Oh, that's so
yes, it
So
does.
cute.
you
That's
sweet
so
summer
cute.
child. Yeah, that's adorable. No, it's still going to happen.
Yes. Why do you think that we collect so many beautiful seam rippers? Do you think it's just for our health and because they're pretty? No.
Because we wear some out. So you have to get a
Yeah.
new one.
You can
Because
totally dull a seam ripper.
yeah,
What is your favorite seam ripper?
Um,
Hmm.
it's
I
one
wish
I
I had
picked
mine in
up
hand.
at the Warwick show in New York a few years ago. Um, Another quilter's son made it, and it's just the right size for my
Is it
hand.
hand turned?
It was a wooden hand
Mm-hmm.
turn.
Hmm.
Um,
I'm gonna go get mine.
okay. Um, and it's also like it's pretty. It's a hand turn piece. It's pretty. My other seam ripper that I like, um, and here's a shameless plug, is the Alex Anderson 4-in-1 quilting tool. Um, it's a stiletto on one end, it's a seam ripper on the other end, and it's a fine seam ripper. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but sometimes I do stupidly tiny stitches.
No, not you.
perhaps.
And so taking those stupidly tiny stitches out becomes easier with a finer seam ripper. And it also has a like a wooden flat end where you can do pressing seams right at the machine. And then it also has another end where, like, if you're turning corner, like if you're turning something out and need to poke the corners, so you actually have that. So that's my other favorite seam ripper. And also sometimes it's just the one that's nearest me.
True.
And sometimes it's pointy scissors. And please don't ask.
I buy Clover seam rippers. They're white handle with a little black ridge on them. I buy those basically in bulk. They're everywhere.
Hmm.
Same. That's what I just
Mhm.
put down. I thought it was next to me, but it's not. It's over my ironing
I have
board.
two in that machine, one in that machine. I have a couple over there. Yeah. I don't think I have any on the machine behind me right now.
Ask
I think
ask why it's on my ironing
my
board.
favorite one is in my car because that's where I keep a lot of my quilting stuff. I I don't know if anybody is surprised by this. Tracy,
The
you are?
clover ones, yeah, I buy the box of
Yeah.
a dozen of the clover ones.
All right, Tracy, show us. Ooh, that's pretty.
So this is made by Modern American Vintage. Is that what it is? Chris. He hand makes all of these beautiful tools, and I collect them whenever I see him at a show. But this one is special. I ordered this one online because there were only a few made. Um, have you all seen the movie Shawshank Redemption? And you know the tree that they sat next to, and there was the little wall that he had dug the little box. That tree was struck by lightning, and they had to take the tree down, and instead of disposing of the wood or chipping it or whatever, they gave pieces of the wood to different carpenters.
Oh, wow.
And he was one of them. And so this is a piece of that tree.
Cool.
That's
Cool.
amazing.
I just love that it has a story like that.
I like that. I like things like that.
And it feels nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of meditative.
It looks like it has um a good grip on the handle.
Yeah, it's actually smaller than one of his other ones that I have because I've got two. I've got another one that matches one of my clappers that I
Yeah.
bought from him. And that one's got a much longer handle. But this one it's just been sanded and it's left natural, and I just love all the
Mm,
imperfections and interesting patterns on
the
it.
character. You like the
Yeah,
character.
the character. That's what I like.
Character.
The character. There you
I
go.
like. Mm, sweet. So I'm gonna ask you guys, what's your one thing this week?
One thing this week.
What's your one thing? Soup, bread, pickles, like something really special that happened this week. Something that we can link to.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
I just had a one-day mystery quilt blanket fort, and it's the quilt behind me here. That was last week. That's been revealed. It was a one day. And then, since a quilt top isn't a quilt until it's quilted, I'm going right into 21 days from quilt top to quilted. So that will start, and you can pick that up also.
Nice.
So it's just showing how to finish that on your home sewing machine and all the stuff you need to know to do that.
Nice.
Sweet.
We'll drop a link below.
Mm-hmm. Michelle, what's your one thing?
Well, um, I had an idea, and maybe I can get your opinion on it because it kind of also goes with what the letter that Tracy wrote. I'm going to QuiltCon for the first time, and one of my goals is to make something to wear. I don't have a quilt in the show. And at my quilt show that I had last month, we had a community quilt that was each of the patches was pinned on by anybody could come and pin them on, and there were 400 of them. So had this like moment the other day of like, I'm gonna make a dress that's gonna be patchwork. Like I'm gonna wear this and have people create this quilt during
Hmm.
my time at QuiltCon. And I can't just like I was so excited about it, and then I was explaining this to a friend, and I'm like, oh, is that subversive? Like, is that bad? Should I not do this? Like, all those little voices then came into my head, and I'm like, I think it's cool, like, but is it not gonna feel right? Like, are the mean girls gonna get mad? I really want to do
Let
this
the
as
mean
like
girls
more of
get
a
mad. That's the point. Who cares?
I want to do it as a project, like a community project, because it kind of commemorates the sphere I have. And a friend of mine was telling me that she took a trapeze course to get over being upset about something else. And I'm like, that's kind of like why I want to make this quilt, live action quilt. Anyway, so I had an idea this week. That's my one thing that I'm really interested in it. I don't often have um subversive ideas, and I'm sort of deciding if it's subversive or not. But I drew it, I patterned it, and it works, and I'm excited about that. And I feel like it's repeatable. Like I could make a pair of pants and wear them somewhere and have a quilt built on me. And when I was explaining it to someone, someone's like, my friend was like, do you mind people like touching you everywhere? And I'm like, actually, no, like I want to be this quilt. Like I want to have it be part of it being made, which is so weird. Maybe I'm
I
a
love it.
Now you make me want to go to QuiltCon to be sure.
Yeah.
really? That makes me so happy to hear you say that.
I'm not going to be able to travel there, but I wish I could.
Michelle, I really love the idea, not just because you had it. Like I don't think I've met an idea of yours that I don't like, but as quilt makers, as makers, so is however we're doing this, if we're stabby knitty people, or crochet people, they hook everything. Um, uh, we are community to one another. And what you're asking for is for people to be community with you in this endeavor. And so, is it subversive? Who gives a flying fig? Go have fun. And clearly you've already designed it. So
Yeah.
let the idea go. Like, I mean, just have fun
Let
with
it fly. Do it.
It
Yeah.
works. Like I was
Yeah.
so delighted. I'm like, oh, the math works and it all works. And so
That's nice.
what can I put a link to? I don't have any. I can, I don't know. I'll post the drawing
We'll
on my,
link to your Instagram page because then they
Yeah.
can follow you,
yeah.
and when you're ready to
Especially
unveil it.
they can follow your QuiltCon adventures.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited about this.
Lori, what's your one thing?
So my one thing is I worked for 10 years in the quilt magazine industry. I had multiple published quilts. And January 1st, an issue of the Quilt Pattern magazine came out, and my quilt is on the cover.
She's a
Yes.
cover girl.
Yes. I've been working with Heather Valentine for basically for a year now. And one of the things we work on together is the Quilt Pattern magazine. And I had an idea, and she said, "Yeah, do it." And and yes, my quilt made the cover. And
Oh,
Love
the
it.
amazing thing is, I took the photographs myself.
Nice.
I sent them to Heather, and Heather did her magic. Yeah,
That's a great story, Lori. Love
wow.
it.
thank you.
Congrats, Lori. It's beautiful quilt.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And my one thing this week is, and this is a shameless plug for my publisher, C&T Publishing has Creative Spark, and on January 31st, there's the Quilters Color Mixer. And so I'm going to drop a link and give you a coupon code to get a little bit off that, to attend the Quilters Color Mixer. Anytime you have an opportunity to learn about color, whether it's from somebody in a quilt shop, somebody in an art studio, somebody who just loves color and uses it in a different way, listen to what they have to say, because it helps us define our own color sense. And they've got some really amazing industry people, like long-term industry people, doing this event this year. And I would just love to see it flourish one more time. So that's my one thing. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us this week. We hope, let us know like what you think about, let us know in the comments, please, like what you think about the quilting industry part of it, like
Mm.
people getting repeat trips or more than one quilt entered into a show, juried into a show. Let us know what you think about our one things and Michelle's idea. Like I am just so chuffed about Michelle's idea. So let us know what you think, and we'll drop Michelle's Instagram account in the comments so that you can follow her adventures at QuiltCon. All right, so and we will see you on the next show.